No, we're playing. Okay, here
It
we are.
says you are live,
Yeah,
like as
we're
of
live.
5 seconds ago when I started bitching about it.
Okay, so shut up and I'm gonna start. All right. Yeah. All right. Anyways. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us on our first episode of 2023 of the Retic Lounge. We're
Happy New Year!
super excited for this episode. We have one of our very own Patreon members, one of the OG Patreon members, Chad Harsch, joining us in. He is a new Retic keeper. We're going to be doing a lot more of these new Retic keeper segments. And we're excited to get this started. But before we do that, kind of wanted to drop a couple announcements. But before we do that, even before we do that, again, thanks for the support in 2022. It was an amazing year to start off. We've been doing this for now 5-6 months, and it's been great so far. All of you that have hung tight, watched our episodes, given us feedback, given us positive and negative comments, we appreciate it all because it's helping us grow. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like button. Our likes are dropping a little bit. Hit the like button, show us some likes, show us some love, drop some comments on any of the thoughts that you have about what
Help
we're talking
Lucas's
about.
ego. He wants to see those numbers rise.
Oh, jeez, Nathan. I really say it because every other YouTuber says it. Okay, that's why I say it. It's the cool thing to say when you have a YouTube channel. Like,
I truly just
subscribe,
don't give a
comment.
shit. I like the information and the episodes that we've put out. So I'm just like, if they like it, they like it. If they don't, see you
Screw
later.
it.
Bye.
Anyways, so back on that, please subscribe. And then if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you for doing that. It's a cool platform that we get to work with. So, let's jump in. Of course, it would be really ridiculous if we didn't mention US ARC. So Nathan, go ahead and do your little blurb
I'm
because
wearing the beanie. Come on. Like,
yeah,
I'm trying
they're
to,
important.
support monetarily whenever you can, but most importantly, become a member, support USARC. Without USARC, we wouldn't have the right to keep retics. So make sure that you're helping them whenever you can.
Yeah. And just I've had people ask me if I donate to USARC. So every clutch that I produce and every animal that I send, I go ahead and donate 10% of those sales to USARC. And then in addition to that, every single time that I send an animal out through Ship Your Reptiles, they have that donate option. I max it out at the $20 they allow you to. So again, if you can, great. If you can't, that's okay. Share their YouTube videos. Do what you can. So, couple exciting announcements for 2023. One thing that you will see different coming up on this episode is we have our very first sponsorship with Stuart Designs, Blake Stewart. Go watch that episode if you did not. We
Show
talk
off
about
the swag. Show
yeah.
off the swag. That's why I was
Stuart.
like,
Oh,
I don't have it. Some homeless person in Salt Lake City has mine, so don't worry about it. But I'll just prompt Lucas.
So yeah, Blake, thank you so much for trusting what we're doing here at the Retic Lounge, being our first sponsor. We will make sure that we cover the full sponsorship of Stuart Design later in this episode. And yeah, we have a couple other announcements that are going to be happening with some interviews about some other affiliate sponsorships that our Patreons already have access to. So again, don't forget, if you want to become a lounger, join our Patreon at patreon.com/the Retic Lounge. Whether you're just getting into retics or you've been breeding for years, the first place you want to visit is Stuart Design. More and more breeders keep showing up at shows, on Morph Market, and all over socials. Sometimes it may feel impossible to get anyone's attention. Stuart Design helps small businesses like yours do big things through brand clarity, helping entrepreneurs to start and scale businesses that are easy to know and love. Their work can help any company or industry, but they've done a ton of work for ours. Stuart Design created the brand for US Arcs, Canova, Reach Out Reptiles, Coiled, and dozens of other well-known reptile breeders. Like many of us, the owner of Stuart Design, Blake, is a keeper and breeder who fell in love with retics. Although Stuart Design does a lot of corporate work, Blake has a passion for working with people in the reptile industry. So, wondering if Stuart Design is right for you? Stuart Design can help if you're just getting started or you're ready to take things to the next level. Maybe you're struggling to stand out and build your presence online or at shows. And maybe you don't want to be like the other guys or get lost in the crowd. You want to make your own way doing what you love. You might just have a big idea and know your business is special, but you need help sharing it with the reptile community. If something here resonates with you, reach out to Blake. Have a conversation with him. To learn more or get started, visit sdidentity.com or call them at 855 SD Logos. Clear brand, own markets, Stuart Design helps create them. Nathan, you ready to get chat on here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
First one of 2023.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and get him on here. And
Here you go.
all right, what's going on, Chad?
How's it going, guys?
It's going well.
That was a hell of an introduction.
Yeah. Yeah, we did the drum roll for you.
So let's start just kind of general background. Year you got into reptiles, what got you into reptiles in general, and then what kind of led you down the path of retics?
Okay, so I don't know exactly what age I was, but when I was, a couple years old, my mom seen that I liked animals, and we had a house and backyard full of stuff. We had dogs, cats, birds, rabbits. We had two big walk-in like aviary things in the backyard with different
Dude, I
kinds
did
of
too.
birds. We had a box turtle that lived under our shed in the backyard. I didn't put him there. Like, he was there when they bought the house. Fish tanks, bearded dragons, and my first snake was just a normal ball python. And it took off from there. I mean, I had, I think, two garter snakes, um, a few milk snakes, a corn snake, a boa, um, and we just catch all the stuff outside and play with those, get tore up a little bit. And yeah, so I mean, I took a lot of years off. I moved from that house when I was 8 or 9 years old and had to get rid of everything. And life happened for years. And then I would say about a little over a year ago, I got back into keeping reptiles. And it started with a couple leopard geckos, a couple crested geckos, and um, my first snake was my Mainland that I have, which probably sounds kind of funny. Um, and yeah, I mean, I have a couple retics, some boas, a hognose, some geckos. That's kind of where I'm at now.
What how old were you when you got your first beard hair?
It was actually like 2 months ago, and this is the outcome. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It wasn't in high school. I didn't have, I had a clean shaven face in high school.
No way.
Um, I would say 18 or 19, I started growing a little something. And then when I found out I was having my first kid, I look like a kid. If I shave this, I look like I'm like 19. So
Can
when
you
I was
send us a picture so we can include it in the episode and
a
bring it up on
beardless me
screen?
picture,
Yes. Yes.
I'll have to see if I can find one. They don't exist. I burned them all, man. Yeah, I grew it when I found out I was having kids because I felt like I looked like a kid. I just kind of wanted to look older. So
Let's talk about retics. When did you get your first retic?
October of last year.
Of 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been keeping them just a little over a year.
Yep.
Or you have at least kept one for a little over a year. And you clearly have like an eclectic background of keeping different type of exotic species. What's been your experience like throughout that first year?
Mm. Um, Before I got my first snake, getting back into it, I mean, like, so I'd kept things before. I'd kept a variety of different snakes before. Granted, this was back in the early '90s when heat rocks and red bulbs were a thing, but
Right.
I did a lot of research on a lot of things before I got my first snake, getting back into it, and I wanted to get a boa. So I found Argentine boas, and I was like, that's what I want. I want an Argentine boa, and
My favorite.
yeah, that's my favorite boa too. So that was the plan, was to go to the San Luis Obispo Expo last year and get an Argentine boa. And I knew plenty about retics. I'd already read a lot of things. I took in a lot of information on every animal I could, basically. So the short version is I went to the expo to get a boa. They didn't have any boas that I wanted. There was only really like morph boas. Um, excuse me. So uh, I was walking by a table and a lady asked if she could hold a snake. And the guy pulled my Mainland out. He's like, yeah, here you go, and hands her a Mainland. So I had never held a retic, and I was fascinated by them. It's kind of hard not to be if you've ever seen a picture one time of a retic. Um, so he let me hold him. The snake peed all over my shoes,
Sounds
but he was
about
super
right.
cool. He was like the most, yeah, he was the most like interactive, fun snake. I just never, I had one boa that was probably the most fun animal, I would say, snake wise, that I'd had before. So uh, my first interaction with a retic, I was just blown away. I was like, damn, I'm not leaving this expo without this snake. So I bought him. And when I left the expo, I had to call my fiance and I was like, hey, so I did a thing. And I don't want you to be mad, but I kind of did a thing. And she's like, oh, shit, what'd you do? And I was like, when you think of a big snake, what comes to your mind? And she was like, I don't know, a retic. And I was like, yeah. So I bought one of those. So that's kind of how that happened. And I ended up getting my first super dwarf, I believe, a month or so after that. Um, and
So hold
I
on,
got
hold on,
another
hold on.
one.
I don't want to
Oh,
skip on that part. So you
okay.
you got your first retic, and then you're like, damn, the snake is so awesome. You bought your second one a month later.
Yeah, I have an addictive personality. I don't know
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know how else to say it. I don't know, man. I ended up with, let's see,
you're like, I
three,
like
four, five.
this.
I ended up with like 6 or 7 geckos and 7 snakes since last year. And granted, my fiance keeps the leopard geckos with her, but I mean, if I'm gonna do something, man, I just go head first into it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. I had one retic, and then 2.5 years later, had close to 20. Um, so
I can't relate to y'all.
I
space, Nathan, space.
Something I don't have.
So
Man,
I mean,
I'm still at 6 animals over here besides my cats. So I'm just like,
yeah, we also didn't develop infections in our spine after surgeries and had to go through a bunch of crap.
I had most of my collection by that point. Give me some credit here.
I'll
So
give you
so
credit just for going through it with the animals.
right,
For taking
seriously,
care of
You should have seen the pissed off mail during that time.
nope, nope. So okay, you got your first retake. A month later, you got your first Superdorf retake, and then how long was it until you? How many retakes do you have right now? 3?
I had 3. Um,
Did
our
you say?
mutual acquaintance Adler has,
Yeah,
yeah, he stopped by when he was out visiting Brian Cusco
he
a
told me
couple
about
weeks
that.
back. Yeah, so he's got my purple albino girl.
Yeah.
News to me. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Well, you should read the Discord.
Yeah, man.
You should read the
This
Patreon
last
Discord.
week has been a tornado. Like, I thought I had a week off of work. I've been busier this last week than I've been, I feel like, this whole last year.
Hold on, I'm taking notes real quick. Can you repeat that? I'm trying to think of how many other excuses you're going to come up with.
Oh my God. Lucas is waiting for me to have my mic muted at some point in this episode. So
I'm not. Our
he's just
supporters
counting.
are.
too.
He's counting the minutes, everyone.
Our supporters are. They love it more than I do. I just like yelling at you.
And I'm playing the game. I'm muting, unmuting, doing the same old
No,
bullshit.
So So Adler has one of them right now, but then after a month after you got your first one, you got your second one. How long was it until you got your third one?
My third retic
Yeah,
was August of this year.
August of this year. Okay, so
Yeah,
you waited
Pomona.
so you waited about like 9-10 months to get your third.
To get my third retic.
Your third retake. I'm sure there's purchases in between.
Yeah, I got 3 boas and a hognose in between there. So,
How's the hog nose, by the way?
oh, he's cool. He's a little
I
sassy guy. He thinks he's a cobra. I
I
swear he
I
does.
I'd love seeing how they just randomly chew on people's freaking hands and
He won't do it.
Huh.
He tried to bite my hand. I don't know if you've ever seen my hands and you've seen how small my hognose is. You would understand that he can't get his little tiny shovel face around my finger. So,
yeah, makes sense.
I didn't know that they were chewers like that.
Dude,
some
they
of them,
chew a
yeah.
lot of. I see videos of them just chomping away, dude.
Huh.
I'd
And
let
what's
him if he bit me. I'm just curious, like what
it,
it feels like. Honestly,
it, and what I love about like the rare fang venom species is like one person can get bit and nothing happens, and then another person can get bit and they go to the hospital because they can't
Yeah.
take the ring off their freaking finger for a week.
It also depends on what kind of rear fang snake it is, because there's some that are a lot more
I heard mangroves can
toxic, I
be,
guess.
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard some of the mangroves or the boega, some of the boega maybe.
yeah.
So Chad, just with getting 3 retics within that span of a year and a half, what would you say has been like maybe your biggest hurdle or biggest failure that you've had to overcome with just in regards of keeping these retics?
I don't know. Honestly, I they're not that hard to keep.
No,
If you
they're
do
not that hard to
if
keep,
you
but have
do
you
your
found
research.
anything challenging in terms of maybe their behaviors?
It took me a while to figure out how to tell when they needed to go to the bathroom. So if once you
You
get
take your
peed
snakes
on a
out.
few times,
Oh,
It's
you
challenging
start to
for me to figure
learn.
out when they won't go to the bathroom. They
Yeah.
never stop.
I'm trying to think, honestly. The only real when I first got my mainland, I had him on substrate, and he was a March baby. So when I got him in October, I'm terrible at math, but what is that? Maybe 6 months or so. So he was small. He was on substrate, and I fed him maybe 2 or 3 times. This happened where when I fed him, he got substrate in his mouth, and I was using cypress mulch, I believe, was what I had the biggest issue with. So I guess the short of it is that I had to dig substrate out of a retic's mouth. So I don't know if you've ever stuck your hand in a retic's mouth, but they do exactly what you would expect that they would do.
bite.
I've had to open a mouth, but I haven't had to go in quite yet.
Yeah, so he got it like right in the back of his jaw to where he couldn't close his mouth all the way. And I just didn't think of using like feeding tongs or something else. I just pulled him out, grabbed it out of his mouth, and as soon as it came out of his mouth, he, took a little bite at it. But it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's worth it
especially
to make sure your animal's okay.
yeah. I mean, I've had some snakes where I've gotten like Repti-chip or something lodged in their gum and everything, and I haven't gone invasively to try to remove it. And fortunately for me, they figure it out. Within a day, it's gone, and I'm like, okay, thankfully, because the first time it ever happened to me was with my wild caught Kalatoa, and I had her for only 6 months, and I was like, and I'd only been keeping retics for like a year and a half, and I was like, there's no shot I'm going inside this cage, grabbing this wild caught animal behind her head, and so fortunately she figured that out. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you learn stuff over time. So now, obviously, I know that there's other ways to do that. Honestly, I've heard people just put them in a bath, let them soak, and it comes out from the
yeah,
water, from them moving in the water.
yeah,
There's a lot of better ways to do that, but
yeah.
that
I mean, a
was a
smaller
thing.
animal, I would have done the same thing that you did. I would have just grabbed it and taken a bite to get it out.
I don't
Yeah,
really know that I've
depending on the
actually
size,
dealt with.
probably.
Depending on the
I
size.
I don't know if I've really
I've
dealt with
told you
too
I'm a
many
baby.
ups and downs. Again, like if you do your research and you spend your time with the animals and you just do the things you need to do, they're really easy to keep. I haven't really had
Have you had pushing
minus the
issues?
size. Not really.
Awesome.
No.
Good for you, man.
My Mainland, when he was transitioning from the 4-foot to the 8-foot enclosure that he's in now, right towards the end, he was getting a little rambunctious at night, but never to the point where he really messed his face up. I did post that picture a while back where he had shed and his lip was like a little kind of pushed weird.
Where'd you post that?
In your Discord, in the
Yeah,
Retic Lounge Discord.
Just as a reminder, join our Patreon.
If you're not on there, man, what are you doing? Get in there. It's a great place. Get in there.
Sorry.
Yeah, I really haven't dealt with pushing. The last 2 times he shed, I was kind of busy doing other things, so I just wasn't keeping the humidity above what I would normally keep it at. So I think he was kind of pushing his face a little to get the shed started. But I usually don't have any issues like that. So
yeah.
All right.
I mean,
So
that's
since Lucas was just stroking our ego a little bit, which is funny, but like this question just makes me laugh even a little bit more. Just right after that, straying away from Lucas and myself because we weren't there when you got your first retic. Who do you feel like was maybe your biggest mentor at the start?
I didn't have one.
Didn't have
That's
one.
the honest truth is, Lucas was the first person that I spoke to personally that basically,
really,
I'm not going to say offered himself up as my mentor, but who gave me his phone number and told me to reach out if I ever have questions. And
I didn't know that.
so really that was the start. And you guys and a couple people on the Patreon are the only people that I really, I'm not super social, I don't really have a big group. I mean,
I'm not either, but I feel like there's a handful of breeders out there that I know I can reach out to and just ask simple questions and get a response back.
I really don't know any of them. I don't really talk to them.
I really didn't want to stroke Lucas or my ego at this point.
Right. Nathan led this with this, Lucas is stroker.
Damn it.
But hold on. So I want to take into account just a difference of experience. Like Nathan, me and you learned about retics and did all this stuff about retics and like found people and then bought a snake. Chad, you bought your first snake at a show?
We preach kind of the opposite. That's why I wanted to ask, because that's kind of what our podcast has been trying to help, is the impulse buys and these animals ending up in homes where people who aren't like Chad, who don't appreciate how big they're going to get or what this animal ends up being, end up getting neglected. So I mean,
Chad went without a mentor for a while, hasn't had any experience with pushing, thinks it's easy. I mean, and it is easy to keep retics if you just know how to work a thermostat and know how to keep a gradient temperature. That's
clean a lot of pee.
Yeah, and aren't afraid to deal with them.
Yeah, that's pretty damn awesome. And yeah, I had something else that I was just about to say that my mind blanked out that I'm sure I'll bring up. But we were talking about our experiences. Yeah, so like just kind of the complete opposite of what you experienced, but you managed to kind of you kept boas before, and I don't care what anyone says. I don't even care what you say, Chad. But boas could be hard to keep at times, man. The humidity, you have to keep the ambient warmer than most other animals. I don't know, man. Like boas are susceptible to RIs.
They're temperamental as hell. Like you can go from thinking you're cool with your boa to it being pissed off within a second, and just like, and
that's all they do.
They're snappy. They're snappy little
funny,
fucks.
Man.
At least honestly, to me,
I haven't dealt with that with the boas either.
Your Argentine boa was not a hisser.
Oh no, she hissed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but none of the boas have ever struck at me.
All mine were
never
snappy.
Took a bite. They have great attitudes.
When
Anybody can go in and take them out. They just.
When
Argentines are very vocal, though.
Yeah, when I kept my Argentine and I kept a BCI when I was younger, super vocal, but never snapped at me. But
I had 5 teeth that were stuck in my middle finger for like months from one of my boas. I'm cool.
I like retics.
Yeah, I love being able to read my animals a little bit, and for whatever reason, I can't do it with boas.
Right.
I'm
So
not that guy, man. I'm not that guy.
right. I was like 10 years old when I had my Argentine, and I'd open up this freaking, and this is back when I like glass aquariums were like a thing, and like, people. So I'd open up the top of that aquarium with the screen lid, and the thing would look at me and just freaking hiss at me for like, and I'd be like, "You sure I can grab you?"
Wasn't your Argentine wild caught or
I'm pretty
something
sure it
like
was
that?
wild caught because I got it from Snakes on Sunset back in like 2001, 2002. And back then, Snakes on Sunset in Miami, super, super known for importing. My Burmese python was from there too. I'm 90% sure all of it was imported.
Yeah, my Argentine hissed a lot as a baby. She doesn't really anymore unless you surprise her. But I mean, she'll hiss at you. You just reach in and grab her, pull her out, and
Yeah.
she stops.
Mine would even hiss in my hands, like as it's moving around, would still like just have its mouth open and hiss. And that's one thing I like about retics. It's like they're pretty predictable. Argentine boa, when
Yeah.
I kept it younger, the thing was in my hand hissing. I was like, all right, any moment this thing's gonna bite my face. Never did, but like I always felt on edge, holding it.
I feel like I can look at my retics and I understand that they don't have the same. It's not like looking into a person's eyes, but I feel like I can look at my retic's face and I know exactly what is going to happen and how it's going to happen. And uh, I don't know. I mean, I've never really run into issues with them. So, I mean, they are predictable. They're very smart. I think they're learnable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say even during the breeding season, when stuff gets a little bit heightened, you can still read your animals pretty well just based off,
Right.
how they're reacting to you.
Yeah.
that
And
kind
I
of
mean,
thing, so.
I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but like how I feel I can read my retic's body language and its face and all that. Like, I don't know if you feel this, but when my retics look into my eyes, I feel like my retics know everything about me more than I know about them. like my
We're anthropomorphizing a little
no,
bit
I mean
much
we
here.
are, but man, sometimes I look at my retic and it's looking at me and I'm like, why are you in my soul right now? Like it knows my every move. It knows like I'm going to move to the left before I move to the left.
Well, I
That's why I
definitely
always
have those times.
that's why I always say my Mainland is my best friend. I honestly feel like we just look at each other and we know exactly where each other are at. And I know that again, maybe that's anthropomorphizing that
Anthrop-
word that Nathan said.
yeah, anthropomorphism.
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
You have two super dwarfs, one mainland. Well, yeah,
1-1 now.
one
Yes.
one and one now, but give us a little bit of insight into like what your difference is between your mainlands, your super dwarf. What percentages are your super dwarf, or were the two? And then talk about a little about just kind of the differences that you observed. I think that would be pretty valuable for our listeners to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. So my super dwarfs are both 50%, both from the same person. Both they're half siblings, um, just a year apart. So um, differences. So there's honestly differences just between the two super dwarfs. I mean, one of them, he like my male, he kind of just likes to find a place to sit. So when you get him out, he'll move around a little bit and then he'll just wrap around your arm. I have hair. He'll crawl up here. He'll wrap around my hair and he'll just sit on my head and he'll just stay there.
Rub it in.
That's just his thing. So, and I can clean, I'll clean cages, cook food, whatever. Like he likes to just find your hair looks great though, man. Um, he likes to just find a place to sit. He's more chill. My female I had for considerably less time. She was a lot more active. Once you get her out, she's always on the move. She's always cruising, doing something. Differences between them, I feel like, and I have a really small sample size, so it's hard to say if it's a mainland versus super dwarf thing or just the animals I have. But
This is all an experiential podcast. This is what it's about.
So I feel like my mainland is extremely confident in everything that he does. That's something that I don't know how else to explain it, but if you hang out with him,
I agree.
that's just how I feel. He seems very confident. He doesn't wrap around parts of you as much as the super dwarfs do to anchor because he's 8 feet long, and he still holds on to you, but he doesn't like wrap around your arms or anything.
He's still a little baby, eight
He's still a
feet.
baby. Yeah. Um, much bigger mess with a mainland. Bigger food. I don't know. I think they are very similar animals, but I sort of fall into the camp where I wish there was more research being done, because as similar, they're both reticulated pythons. They're both, supposed to be essentially the same, minus size differences and like locality differences, I guess. But they act pretty different,
I would
and
agree.
I don't know if this is something that has to do with however many hundreds and thousands or millions of years that specific animals have evolved or whatever. I can't really speak to
Well, I think it
that.
very easily comes down to just the size of these islands and, compared to the size of the mainlands that, or the size of the range that the mainlands have,
Right.
comparatively, they're not as in danger of being poached or taken
Yeah.
out by some
And the
predator.
size that they are, the size that a mainland is in the wild, even lean as they are in the
So
wild, generally, the size, there's a lot less things that are going to eat that versus
I
the size of a super dwarf,
here
I would
here
think.
here's the thing: is I would agree with you with a large animal, but with your animal being 8 feet on the mainland island of, let's say, Sumatra or Malaysia, a very big island, an 8 foot retic is like that
A
thing's
baby.
being eaten by a water monitor day in day out. But so I do think that size has to go with the confidence level. I think that super dwarfs have a reputation in the past when they were imported being flighty, not necessarily bitey, right? They're not one to bite, but they just are runners and they're small. They're quicker, agile because of their size. But I think maybe a lot of it has, and I could be wrong. This is my experience again, experiential podcast, but a lot of my super dwarf stuff and my pure locality stuff are mostly F1s. And so they move a lot. I only have one mainland female. She's about 12, 13 feet and she's about 60, 75 pounds. Um, but dude, once I open up that cage and I just tap her once with the hook, she comes out and she runs the garage. She's like, I don't care about you, human. She's like, she just goes out, does her thing. So just like you said, confidence, but I think maybe partially because of that is because of the longevity of captive breeding.
Yeah, very likely.
I think super dwarfs, a lot of people that are keeping super dwarfs, and especially for me alone, again, I keep a lot of F1. I have a wild caught, and then some of my stuff is F2. Um, that's still not far removed from the wild. So to be picked up by a human and for it to move and move and move is normal. But for a mainland tiger that I have, which tiger is the oldest morph in this country, um, is that a fact? I think it's tiger before albino. But anyways, um, it's been bred over and over several generations. Even though my tiger that I have right now is a 25% Bali, and the Bali was only at an F1, it's still just the captive breeding and longevity of mainlands. I think has really shown how that confidence and calmness, in my opinion, just kind of plays a role in that. Maybe in 10 years we'll see the same thing with super dwarfs.
I mean, I wasn't around for obviously, the early years of retic keeping in the states, but I mean
Oh, me either. Aren't
that
you older than
seems
me?
I'm 31. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know. I
30.
look like I'm 52, but yeah, I wasn't around for that. So, but that sounds like a lot of what people said about mainland retics back in the day. And over time, they're not really. It's not the same as dealing with wild caught animals and F1 animals. They change a lot over
Yeah.
captive breeding. Over the years.
Yeah, the person who got me into snakes, he was talking about getting retics, and the way he talked about retics was kind of like the import days. And we are far removed from that. But even then, that was my first impression with retics, and seeing people over the internet work with them in a different way, almost like you can with some of the smaller python species. It made me go, okay, this was something that's attainable. Now I just want to find the perfect size for me.
Right. Exactly. If my somewhat of a theory or guess, like if I being honest, because I love the super dwarf, I love the locality stuff, but man, if my Calatoas could behave the same way that my single mainland female does here, that would be the perfect snake. If I could have a 9 foot adult female retic act the same way that this mainland does with the confidence she has, that would be like the perfect snake in the world to me.
I mean, a lot of it comes down to interaction, I think, too. And
Ooh.
I'm sure that you interact plenty
Ooh.
with your animals, but I'm just saying that I think a lot of it, like you can take an animal that might act a certain way, and over healthy interactions over an amount of time, now they don't act that way. Maybe they're not as defensive or aggressive
Also,
or
yes
as flighty.
and no. I think for 90%, if not more, yes. It's every animal can be worked with, but there's always going to be that outlier. And I've seen a few of these outliers, especially within retics over the years, that, you know, as good of the handler, as much interaction as this animal can handle, it's still not
They still hate
calming
your
down.
guts.
Yeah, they still just
Yeah.
want to kill you.
Um, so you talked about how much you interact. Chad, I didn't ask you this before the interview, so feel free right now to say like, off boundaries, and I'll just cut this part. But if you're cool with it, we can
Oh,
keep
you already
going.
know it's off boundaries. No, I don't. I don't care
No,
what
no.
it
So
is. Go
so
ahead.
so something that's been controversial that's popped up in our Discord and then in general in retics is how Chad interacts and takes his retics out. So me and Nathan have been a big advocate of using a paper towel, using a hook, tap training, providing a safety barrier. Chad has extremely large testicles, and he doesn't. And that's a joke actually, because I know a handful of other people that have the most amazing relationship with their retics and don't ever use a hook. And I've said this a million times before. Maybe I've even said this on the podcast, but we attribute retics to being like these super intelligent animals, right? But yet, like we as humans are still like, I need to put a hook to tap you so that you know,
They're
right? Like a retic should be able
they're
to.
big,
They're
so
big. They're big. You want to be careful, but
I'm not saying that the hook, as much as it can be a confidence builder, can also be somewhat of a detriment to your confidence in approaching your
oh,
animals,
I
and Chad might be a testament to that.
yeah. So, Chad, I want you to kind of just talk about your experience of like your relationship with your animals, why you don't use a hook, how do you go about entering the cage. And I just want to clarify real quick to listeners. If you are confident enough to do this and you understand the consequences with a smaller animal, start when they're young, right? Like if you just decide to buy a 13-foot adult and you're like, I'm going to stick my hand in there, like please don't do that. Like please use caution. But if you get a baby animal and you want to work with it to go in without a hook, I mean, I'm not going to say don't, because there are people like Ed over in Europe, people like Chad who sent a video on our Discord that shows how he gets his animals out. And to me, there's nothing more beautiful than seeing those people build those bonds with animals, retics specifically, without having to use that hook. There's something just kind of magical about watching it. So, Chad, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about it because I talk too much.
Okay. Well, first, I kind of want to preface this by saying that I'm not trying to say to not use a hook, because I feel like a lot of where the dispute or the backlash comes in is that there's like this assumption that I don't think hooks are necessary or needed, or they're stupid or whatever. So I fully believe using a hook is a good idea. I have hooks. I did use them. And again, I mean, do that. That's the safest way to do that. if you get to a point where you learn, you have an animal that you feel like you could not do that with, whatever. So anyways, I just wanted to preface by saying that I do support hooks. I do recommend that you use them with retics. So I don't even really know how to, it's a conversation I've had so much, I don't even know how to have it again. But when I got my Mainland, I did not have a hook for 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. So I guess in that circumstance, I was just lucky that he was well behaved. The guy that had sold him to me, I think, probably worked with him a good fair bit because he's always been really well behaved. That would be my guess. So I got a hook. I got my super dwarf. I started using the hook when necessary because I felt like a lot of times when I go into the enclosure, my Mainland really didn't care that I was there. And the super dwarf was different. Both super dwarfs were different. It took longer to get to where I'm at. I guess the reason I did it, I think they're very intelligent. I'm not a big fan of. I like to put my hand on an animal. There's something that enjoyable about that. There's sort of this kind of primal sort of feeling, I guess, with building a bond with an animal.
Especially a predator. Yeah.
Especially something
An
like a
apex
retic.
predator.
Right. So, and I in the video that I posted, I also said that like you don't start like this, right? Work up to this. Also, every animal's different. My Mainland took very little effort to get to the point where I don't ever use a hook with him. I haven't for months, many months. And my newest super dwarf female did not like me very much when I first got her. So it took me a little bit of hook, paper towel roll, whatever, to get to that point. And by when Adler was here, I mean, when he was outside, he seen how I got her out, and she's super sweet. I just wanted to be able to interact with an animal that I felt like was intelligent enough to differentiate me from food this way. I didn't want to have to use tools. I didn't want to, if there was an emergency and I didn't have a hook for whatever reason next to me, I don't know. So it took a little time. So I started with using the hook, and then I would open the enclosure and I would put my hand. I don't know why I just slid a screen top, I guess because this is behind me. I would open the enclosure,
You're
doors,
doing shapes
whatever.
like I do.
Right. I don't know what to do with my hands. Um, so over a little bit of time, I would open the enclosure and I would just put my hand basically up to wherever the opening to the enclosure was, and I would see how he reacted. And then I would put my hand in further, and I realized really quick that he comes right up to my hand, but it's not like quick. It's not quick. It's not like when they come up towards food. I realized that he didn't think my hand was food is what I thought. So I just started doing that, and now I do it with every animal I own. Um, I think it's possible. It's probably not possible with every animal because every
Good luck doing
maybe
that with my wild cock Halitoa.
right. See, that's the thing is every animal is really different, and it's up
Yeah.
to you to decide if you want to take that risk because it is a risk. Even if it's a small animal, bites aren't really fun. I don't think. Let's see.
I actually do that with some of my hatchlings. Like, so not my hatchlings, but my holdbacks from my 2022 clutch of Kalatoa. I do that. I open it up.
Yeah.
They come out first, and then I just stand far away and let them think. And eventually, what they do is they'll retreat. And then once they retreat, I'll get closer, put my hand out, and let it think. Now, will I do that when that animal is 7-8 feet? Probably not, just because I'm a bitch and don't want to get bit by.
I've done
a
it, but it just
seven.
depends on the day. Like,
Right.
Depends on the
you
day.
read your animal's body language and
Right.
spend a lot of
The
time with your
nicest.
animals. You should be able to differentiate when that could be a safe thing to try.
Yeah. There's times when I can tell that my snakes don't really want me to bother them, and I don't bother them unless I have to. If I have to clean their enclosure, then I do that one way or the other. But I never really went through this learning curve where I was getting bit all the time, and that never happened. They all honestly
That's
took to it
awesome.
better than I thought that they would. I kind of was ready and accepted the fact that I would probably get bit, and I really didn't. My newest super dwarf female, maybe once or twice. She was also really small, but it was never really an issue. And now I do it. Would I let somebody else do it? No. If someone comes over to my house, I'm not going to tell them go ahead and stick your hand in my Retics enclosures because they don't know each other. That person's not me. I'm not willing to take a risk with somebody else. It's my choice if I if I want to do that. And again, like you're saying, would I do it if I had a 15-foot snake? I don't know. Depends on the snake. Depends on the day. I don't know. I really can't say.
Lucas is muted. Yes. Welcome to 2023, motherfuckers. We're here.
All right. Oh yeah.
Damn it!
Yeah. This is professional podcasting at its finest.
Yes.
People that are first
so
to
happy about
people
that.
that
I wish I had poppers, like streamers. Oh my god, the works would come out right now.
People that are watching this for the first time are like, what the fuck is happening?
They click off. They hear no hooks with Retics, see somebody muting themselves on their own podcast, and now they're done.
Oh, man.
I've been waiting for this
forgot-
day. 21 episodes and we are here.
I forgot what I was. You guys scared the shit out of me, dude. You guys screamed in my ear. I don't even know what I was gonna say. Chad, excuse me, Chad. I think what I was gonna say was, I really appreciate how you observe body language first, and then your instinct tells you to react second. And it's based on the relationship you have with your animals. Man, there are some people out there that are like really hardcore on like, if you don't use a hook, you're a effing idiot. And it's like, I get it because we're all about safety, but like at the same time, I think people that feel very strongly about that have yet to actually observe people be able to develop. I mean, like, do you think people are going into croc monitor enclosures with hooks? A croc monitor can kill you with a single bite. But
yeah, I'll take a bite from a 20-foot Retic right now over a croc monitor.
Yeah, over a 6-foot croc monitor.
Yeah.
But people don't go into a croc monitor with a hook. I mean, you have to develop the relationship and develop an understanding and trust with your animals, and it's possible with a Retic. Guys, these animals are intelligent, and for us to think that they're not capable of differentiating us with food is just not true, in my opinion. Now, again, I use a hook 95% of the time going into my enclosures. I'm going to recommend to everyone listening, use it 100% of the time going into the enclosures. But if you decide to do a social experiment with your Retics as they are young and smaller and can't hurt you, please do it. Like, develop that relationship with your animal that you possibly have the opportunity to, that a lot of people don't ever do.
I also bought all of mine as young, like babies, basically. I would not go, like, again, I would not go and buy an older animal and try and do that probably. I don't know. Learn your animals, like, I'm not saying that you're always going to be right 100% of the time, because you're not. And I haven't been doing this long enough to be like the voice for not using a hook. But the more you interact with them, you can learn your animals. And that goes for most animals, but you really can learn the behavior. The body language is a huge part of that. I feel like I can look at their face and sometimes I can just tell how if they're feeling it, So just spend the time and use a hook. I agree. Use a hook 100% of the time. If you decide you don't want to, do it safely. Don't just stick your hand in there. I hope that you know your animal well, that you spend as much time as you can interacting with them, so you kind of have, you can kind of guess what's going to happen. It is doable.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's very doable. They are very intelligent. They do a lot of dumb things too sometimes. They're smart, man. They are smart.
I think Retics are actually not as smart as we think. They do some stupid shit.
I think they're smart and I think they're dumb at the same time. They do stupid things, but they have a high level of intelligence, I think, for a snake, just from what I've seen.
I think they have a high amount of social intelligence, right? Like, I think their social intelligence and their spatial awareness is phenomenal compared to a lot of species. But like, you also have to think about like the most common issue people have with retics is pushing. Like, how stupid are you that you're gonna push so damn hard that you split your face in half? Like, don't be an idiot. Like, right?
Well, I don't even really equate that to being stupid so much, because most of the time,
Chad,
if you have a snake that's pushing,
Bored, understimulated is what comes to my mind.
I understand that,
right?
but if
Yeah.
but we humans are intelligent. If I am bored
Oh
and
yeah,
if I am bored and understimulated, I'm not going to start
Yeah.
doing this to myself
right. No, no,
to
no. Right.
stimulate
We have
myself.
some pretty
I've been
self-destructive
there.
habits if you really start digging at it.
Right.
Let's be real. We might not split our mouth open, but look around you. There's some people that when they get bored, they do some stupid shit.
Yeah, like
Which
eat Tide
honestly,
Pods.
every TikTok trend ever made, from what
I
I
was
hear,
gonna
I don't
say,
do
just hop
that.
on
So
TikTok. I'm sure you'll find something.
just
All right, point
wow.
proven. Jeez. Next topic.
So before we start like closing things up, like I think one of my questions in terms of retic keeping is, do you have any sort of routine with them? Is there any like certain time of day you're feeding, certain time of day you're cleaning, anything like that that you feel like you stick to?
I clean with dirt, so
Me too.
as soon as I notice that it's dirty, I clean right away. Um, with the feeding, I feed later in the afternoon, evening. I don't have a specific time. Um, it's just whenever I do
Right.
it,
They're on my schedule.
It doesn't matter, man. They'll eat. Like I always say, like that's one of the coolest things about retics. They'll eat anything, dude. You could take your work shoes off and throw your work shoes in there, and they'll eat them if they're warm. They don't care, dude. Like, and
And
it makes it easy to care for them. You don't have to worry about them not eating. But it does. I eat just in the afternoon, in the evening, whatever.
yeah.
Pretty loosey goosey with it. Yeah, I mean, even
Yeah.
you can attest that right before we started this podcast, I was like,
Yeah.
It smells like piss.
do I smell pee? I'm not even by my snake room. It's just that I can
Yeah.
sense someone peed. I need to go clean right after this.
Yeah, no. I was on a very routine when I had fewer amount of retics, and it was like on this day when I get home from work, but now that I have a lot more animals and I'm breeding and everything, it's my snakes are on my time. It's
Oh,
like I'm gonna feed you when I have the time to feed you, and as long as I'm not starving you, then I'm gonna feed you when it's
I
time.
guess something that goes into that is like I I try and change water for all my snakes like every 2 days, maybe three. I try and do
Yeah,
it twice a week at least. I think that that's kind of important. I know I don't like to drink water that's been sitting around for days and days and days.
no,
Yeah.
I do
So
3 days. I,
do.
I think 3 days on like the 4 days if it's like I don't know something crazy happens or I'm sick and I can't do it. But like 3 days,
Yeah.
2 days if I 2 days I get to it. But no, I agree. I think the most important thing you can do for a retic's health is give it fresh water every couple of days.
I also kind of have OCD, man, and I check temperatures like a lot throughout the week. I
Yeah,
check temperatures on most of my animals
I
just to make
did
sure
that.
that everything
You should
is
be
right.
doing that on your heat tape. I
Yeah.
mean,
I
just
do it with
because
the
you're
heat tape and the enclosures with the panels, and I just like to, yeah.
well,
Ambient
and heat
baby,
tape's not
I
meant to
wish,
last forever either. So it's stuff
ambient
that you need
baby.
to be checking to
yeah,
make sure that you don't have potential hazards, don't end
Yeah,
up with fires, anything like that. So
right.
yeah.
yeah, I think that's super important, and it's not necessarily OCD more than just like trying to stay on top of things.
I did the same thing, dude. Every single day that I took a retake out, that I was cleaning, that I was changing waters, and I kept on a gradient before, bro. I had the
Yeah,
snake in one hand, the temp gun in the other, and I was
yeah,
always just shooting the entire enclosure. And
yeah. I do the same thing.
the most stress freeing thing in keeping retakes that I've ever done was switch them over to ambient.
Honestly, man, as soon as I am able to, I would like to do the same thing.
I
I
love
just
it.
can't do it right now. But that's also honestly how I realized that my mainland likes cooler temperatures. I used to keep them at, I think I started at around 89, and I've noticed over time that he actually prefers when he doesn't have that hot of a hot spot. He seems like he's less, he seems happier with slightly lower temperatures. I've noticed. Just
Oh yeah. No,
So
absolutely. In my keeping, I definitely adjusted things lower and lower over the years, and I think Lucas could agree to that as well.
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't agree with the whole thing. You know, people that say like keep a gradient to between 70 and 90 degrees or like keep a hot spot of 90 degrees. I think 90 degrees is way too hot,
yeah,
man.
100%.
Especially
Well,
for
and
keeping super dwarfs.
that thinking comes mostly from the ball python industry, and that's a good place to start when we're thinking of retics, but then we need to really start doing research and investigating the microclimates where these guys actually come from and then start
Right.
adapting those things.
I don't keep
Um,
anything at 90 degrees anymore. I keep everything is.
mhm.
88 was
I
my
think my
hottest.
my mainland
80,
usually is around
89 was
86,
mine.
86, 86 and a half. The super dwarfs maybe 88, maybe. But
I
I
would
think
say around 87 is
that's usually
kind of
where
where I
mine
like to
are.
keep my hot spots at now.
Yeah.
And everything seems to be pretty happy, but
Even the boas, I don't keep. Most people would. I mean, I try and keep the boas a little cooler too. Honestly, I think most things are kept too hot and either too wet or too dry. I think I think that that's been a problem for a long time. It seems like.
Yeah. Yeah, I just generally speaking, I think most people keep their retics too hot. Um, you know, if you want to bump up temps, while they're gravid, that's one thing. But, to have a 90 degree, is my light tripping back there?
a little bit.
That's
Oh
fun.
yeah,
Anyways, to have a 90-degree hotspot year round, I just think it's too hot, especially for the superdwarf species. Like, Daniel Solis has talked about that they stay in cave systems, that they're up in rocks, that they're doing all this. None of that stuff, I don't think, is reaching temperatures of 90, 92 degrees. I'm actually interested to
yeah.
see what he shares. We'll have him on one of
Well,
these episodes.
and he was the person that first got me started in thinking of dropping my temperatures. He was talking about temperatures long ago and just noticing that every time he went to the island, it wasn't reaching 90. It wasn't reaching 88. It was like where he was finding these snakes, it was much cooler. So it was videos like that, videos like Dave Kaufman going out with Dan Malari of DM Exotics and finding just reticulated pythons by the riverside that I started thinking about my husbandry just a little bit differently. It
Right.
connected me a little bit more to where these snakes are actually coming from
Yeah.
and making it a little bit more personal for me.
It's tropical. It's not ball python Africa.
No.
And let me tell you this, just being a breeder and having a few clutches under my belt and seeing what can happen, like I'll tell you this, overheating can kill your retics, overheating can kill your eggs. Your retics will do absolutely just fine if it's 65 degrees for several days. And if your female is gravid and their hotspot gets down to 80, 81, 82, they're going to be fine if it's there for a couple days. But if you have that hotspot at 92, like if you keep your hotspot at 90 and then your thermostat is off by 2 degrees. 2 degrees is not really a lot. But let's say your thermostat happens to be off by 2 degrees on the warm side, 92 can ruin an entire clutch of eggs. 92 can cause a snake to push its face into obliteration. He is not a retic's friend.
Yeah. That's honestly what I was thinking about when you were talking about when you said retics do dumb things and push, and I was like, honestly, like it's almost helpful, I think, to some people if you see that and then you say, okay, well, let me check everything. Is it
Right.
too hot? Is it too cold? Is it too dry, wet?
Right.
What's going on? Do they need more cover?
Right.
Do you need to hang something over the glass if you have a big wide open enclosure? Are they feeling vulnerable? Like what, I think that's almost beneficial in a way because
Yeah, they speak
as
to you.
long as you pay attention and you try and fix, you try and search for a problem, see if there's something you can fix. Like a lot of snakes don't do that. A ball
Yeah.
python might sit on the cold side of an enclosure almost indefinitely because they prefer that hide. They just like that hide better than the hot side. So they don't go to the hot side and they just stay cold all the time. or vice versa. They just sit on the hot side and they're too hot because they like that hide more, or it's more enclosed or whatever, you know? So it is kind of nice that they let you know when something's wrong.
Yeah, no, they're very
It's my favorite part about Retics. They literally will tell you,
very interactive animals.
right? They will tell you like, hey, you're doing something wrong because I don't want to be in my enclosure anymore. So, I mean, Chad, before we go into diving into your personal life so everyone knows every little thing about you, do you want to share with us any other feedback, advice, what it's been like keeping retics, anything else that you want to do to close up kind of the retic segment of this episode?
Yeah, anything that you wish that we would have asked that we didn't maybe get to.
Oh, what a beautiful question. What do you wish we would have asked you about your animals? Nathan,
I
you're
don't
getting
know,
good at
man.
this podcasting thing.
I'm kind of bad at that. I feel like I'm put on the spot. I don't know. I mean, I guess just some ideas off of my head is they're amazing animals, man. If you, uh, one thing I hate hearing is, oh, you want a retic? Buy this first. Buy this thing first.
I
Buy
hate that
a
too, dude.
buy a corn snake. You want a retic? Go buy a corn snake and keep that, or buy a boa. You need to have a boa before. I my first snake getting back into things was a Mainland retic. I wouldn't have sold me a Mainland retic if I was that, which is why I don't breed Mainland retics. If I was breeding them
I
and
kind
I
of want to
walked
add a
up to that
caveat
table,
to this
Hold on, let
because
Chad finish.
I
Let Chad
know,
finish.
but he
no, go
had
ahead,
reptile
I can.
experience before.
He did.
I
Well,
He did. He did.
yeah,
He
but
did.
I was like 8 or 9 years old,
So was I though, but
and I was a
it's
kid,
still
and you know, I went
I
through ups and downs of things in the '90s. I mean,
I
a lot of
think, yeah, I
even as
think
a kid, I
at least
realized things
having
weren't
some
always right for
hands-on
your family.
reptile experience, whether it is keeping or owning something smaller and less intimidating, is very beneficial. But no, I
Having
agree with you that I
experience.
don't think you necessarily have to start with one of those animals.
so let me kind of play depth. Like I'm gonna play the middle ground between the two thoughts. So because here's the thing, is like I agree with what Chad says 100% because like I kept snakes growing up, but then I didn't keep snakes for a long time, and like my first true adult snake was a retic. And so when I hear people say you need to keep species A, B, and C in order to have a retic, I'm like, I kind of agree with Chad, but then at the same time, like Chad, I can agree with Nathan in the sense of like me and you both understood what a snake was.
Sure.
What we've interacted with snakes, we had gained confidence with snakes. Even as a kid, we understood that like okay, they can bite, they might not bite, but like we had an idea of what it was like keeping a species, and we kept a snake in an enclosure. And so I try to think about Nathan's perspective of like if you've never kept any snake ever in your life, you've never kept a reptile, and then all of a sudden you're like, I want to keep a retic. I can understand his perspective. Like that's a
I
pretty
just think about one of my babies going out,
right.
and that's where it kind of starts hitting me.
Yeah, no. If I'm a seller and I sell someone a retic for the
Well,
very first exotic animal that they had, I'm calling you daily. Be prepared.
so the thing, it my first snake getting back into things was a Mainland retic. My personality works well with things that might be. Okay, let me rewind.
That might be dangerous.
I did a lot of research prior to getting an animal.
Yeah.
I've read tons of things on the internet. I've read books. I've watched as many videos as I could find. I read forum posts. I did a lot of things, and then as soon as I brought the animal home, I just hit that even harder. I just kept searching for more information and more advice. And you know, if you have the right personality, if you're the kind of person who really puts themselves like fully into the things they're interested in, a retic is not that bad of a first animal. The reason I say I wouldn't have sold myself a Mainland retic, this is, I mean, I've had this conversation with you guys, I think, and some of the people I'd be a really hard person to buy an animal from because you could say it doesn't matter if I'm selling it online or at a booth or whatever. I'm going to have way more questions for you than you're ever going to have about the animals I'm selling. That's just, and that's why I don't breed animals, or I'm not, at least at this point, you know. Um, I just feel like more should go into a guy walking into a show and buying a retic. No, no, I wasn't asked, have you ever had a snake? Do you have a snake? Have you ever kept a reptile? There was really no, there wasn't any of that. So that's why I say, like, I wouldn't want to sell to the guy who didn't spark that conversation, maybe, or I guess that's probably the breeder's job too, though. But if you have the right personality, man, they make great pets, dude. If you want a retic, don't go buy a corn snake. Don't do
I see that's where I agree with that statement. Like
that.
if I'm doing research and I'm like retics are my favorite snakes and I want a pet retic, it's like the idea of like, well, let me get a ball python first. Or let me get a boa first and then get the snake that I actually want. It's like that's how rehoming happens. That's how
It kind of goes against what we've already talked about. And if you're getting an animal, it should be something that you're totally in love
obsessed
with,
with. Yeah, that you
invested in.
love.
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to go through that route, and not, I wish. Yeah, I wish
If
there
you
were
want, if you,
easier paths for some people to eventually find their love in retics, but I think for some it does certainly help.
if you want a retic, don't go buy a ball python or a corn snake. But if you want a retic and you don't have much experience, little to no experience, just do your research, man. A lot of
No,
great people. There
yeah.
are a lot of great people in this community who are probably willing to help you. Don't impulse buy it. Don't be like, I want a retic. Let me just hand the money
Right.
over and come
Don't
home with a retic.
right, like don't go
Don't
to a
do that.
show. Don't go to a show and be like, "Oh wow, that purple albino is only 150
Right.
bucks and it's beautiful."
Yeah, yeah. Don't do that, because that's how people end up with a, 8 to 10 foot animal in a year, and they're like, oh shit, I gotta get rid of the animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to ever discourage the kid that's interested in snakes and dips their proverbial toes in the water by buying a ball python and eventually finding out about retics, kind of like I was, to think that they did it the wrong way. I think that, yeah, if you already are obsessed with retics and you haven't owned anything, there might be a path where it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
um,
Also,
Yeah.
also, hold on.
yeah,
Before we go into personal questions, I just want to touch on one thing. Chad, if you could try to just like answer this in a concise way, but like you said something that struck me. Because both of us we talked like the addictive personality and stuff, but you said like you made a comment something like there's that's the reason why I don't breed these animals. Like you've kept retics and your idea is like I'm not going to and I don't have thoughts of breeding them right now when everybody and their mom is like when I buy my first two retics, they want to
Breed
start
them.
they want to start breed them right away. What kind of what's that thought process like?
Um, well, just in the short time that I've been back keeping animals, just the things I've seen and heard, I mean, there's enough stories to, for one, I mean, that could be something to discourage you from just thinking you have to breed. That seems like like some of the questions I see the most often is, what's the smallest enclosure I can keep this animal in, and what animal should I get to breed to this animal? You see those questions everywhere, and the animals I keep them because I love them. I keep them because they fascinate me. They're incredible, and I mean, they make my life better. They're an important part of my life. I don't have to breed them. There's plenty of people who do that. I don't keep animals for money, and I'm not saying that breeding animals you're doing it for money, but I don't need to do it just because there's the potential of making a lot of money. I don't need to do that. I would rather care for the animals first. There are plenty of solid people out there who are breeding. I don't have to throw my hat in the mix. Have I thought about it? Yeah. Um, I've considered, I really love localities. I've considered kind of doing like a little bit of like what Lucas does. I really love locality animals. I love locality retics. I've considered doing that. Do I have to? No, not necessarily. Will I someday? I don't know. I can't say that right now. But right now, I'm not going to. I also know that I don't have the space to be working on breeding. I don't have the money to be putting into that right now. My concern always is these animals are part of my family, and that comes before making more of them or making money or whatever. I'm interested in breeding, multiple things, and I may at some time. I just don't need to do that now. That's just not.
I think
I don't know.
that's such a respectable answer. Again, just because you own retics doesn't mean you need to breed them, but
Yeah, just because you own anything doesn't mean you need to breed it. You don't have to breed ball pythons just because you have a ball
right,
python or
right,
anything else. Like corn snake, it doesn't matter.
right.
And
Okay,
I think another part of it is that there's just if I love localities. I've considered that someday. The only other reason I could see for breeding is if I really like, say, if I was going to get into breeding dwarf and super dwarf stuff. The only reason I could really see for me to jump into that ring is if I wanted to bring a morph into it or a morph combo that's not there. Maybe I could work towards that because that's something I'm passionate about. But I mean,
right,
you don't have
right.
to breed.
So, Chad, what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go into some personal questions. Not too personal, but this is kind of like what we've done lately as far as like a rapid fire segment. So short, sweet answers, short, sweet questions. We just want to get to know who the man behind the beard is. I'm going to let Nathan take over this part and kind of start asking you some questions.
Whoa. This is your segment. What do you mean? You're leading this up.
I am?
You're the one that had this all prepared. I have nothing ready.
Okay. So as far as like rapid fire questions go, I wasn't prepared. Jeez, Nathan, you just typed on the chat right
He's
here
like,
that you had questions.
No, no, not at all. That's not what I was saying.
Okay, so let me actually. So as I pull up my questions that I typically ask for rapid fire, Nathan, go ahead and you had some questions that you want to ask Chad. Go ahead and start shooting that
It's
on.
literally the last question that needs to be asked. So I
Oh,
need you
jeez.
to lead this off since you
Okay,
want to do
all right.
rapid fire.
All right, guys, we've been doing this, and ladies who are listening, we've been doing this for 5 months. I swear we know what we're doing. Chad, sports or no sports?
Sports.
Favorite sport?
To watch football, to play basketball.
Okay, favorite football team?
Chargers.
Ooh, okay.
And they're still San Diego Chargers to me, regardless of where they are now. So
favorite
Dang.
favorite basketball team?
Celtics.
The reason why I'm salty towards the Chargers is because Keenan Allen was hurt in my fantasy league like literally all season, and it destroyed me. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Favorite basketball team?
Celtics. I'm also I like college sports a lot. I'm a USC fan.
Oh,
College
did
football.
you see what you did
So
right there? You went Chargers and then Celtics.
yeah, my two favorite teams, man. Come on. And USC. I'm a Trojans fan. I've been a Trojans fan since I was a kid too.
And then you went Chargers, Celtics, USC. Like, wait, hold on, over here, USC. No, I respect that. I actually my favorite teams are all over the place too. Okay. Let me ask you this. So first off, let me just drop real quick. Why do you enjoy amateur sports, aka college?
I don't know.
I can answer
when
this
I
for
when I was
football.
Nathan,
when
I
was
want you to answer. I played college baseball, so for me, college sports is nothing that was like. It's not
Okay,
nothing that's been
college
big to me.
baseball is probably the most boring college sport. No one's watching that.
Oh, jeez.
I've never seen a college baseball game in my
I
life.
feel like I've seen more women's softball televised than I've seen college
Let's
baseball.
be real though, Nathan. You're looking for women's softball games to watch. Let's
No,
be
no,
real.
no, no.
Thank you,
Come
Chad.
on.
Thank you, Chad.
On, man. Keep it real with us.
But
Why college?
But
Why college,
as far as football goes, for me, just because I'm in Utah, we don't have any pro sports out here besides the Utah Jazz, which, let's be honest, is just a developmental team for the rest of the NBA.
Right.
All of our talent goes somewhere else.
Yep.
So college
I-
football rules. Wait. But also, I feel like these college players, especially in football, have a little bit more to play for. Maybe not so much anymore now that they have the sponsorship deals.
Right.
But in the
That's how I feel.
past, you would see them play a lot harder than you do anyone in the NFL. You just see a lot slower pace in the NFL.
I honestly have two reasons. That's one of them. I feel like growing up, well, okay, so one of my personal reason is that I played pretty much every sport. I played club soccer, I played local soccer, I played basketball, baseball, football. I played everything, and I never really thought I never was like I'm going to be a pro sports player. But I could go to college. Maybe I could go to college. Maybe I could play for a college team. I didn't.
You
Maybe I
got good
could.
hands. I could totally see you being a tight end.
I played tight end and linebacker. Anyways,
There you
Stop
go.
looking at his tight
I was an
end.
out. I was I was an outside linebacker mostly and defensive end, but
Chad,
yeah,
do you have
I think they play harder.
See, he defends that end.
I think that it's more possible, so that's kind of what got me into it.
Okay. Next question. Favorite food?
Oh God, I'm vegetarian, man. I
Who
don't have
just-
any.
who
I don't
just-
have any good answers for you, dude.
You're. I mean,
know.
I don't care. I mean, my wife and I went vegan and we had spaghetti squash and it was phenomenal.
I actually was vegan for a while too. You know what? Thai food. I love Thai food. If I can get it with
Yeah,
no
Thai
meat, if I can
food's
get
great.
vegetarian Thai food's my favorite food for sure. As far as just, I could eat it every day.
Okay.
I don't think anyone would want to live in that house with me, but
Yeah. So for those of you that think you cannot get big and strong being a vegetarian, Chad is living proof.
I'm also a lot bigger right now than I normally am because I was
Because-
drinking so much. But I mean, I've been huge my whole life, man. You can do it.
Okay. Rapid fire question. Let's see. Favorite retic morph.
Retic Ghost, 100%.
Oh, you're gonna like what I'm getting soon.
Not even kind of a question. Retic Ghost is.
You're gonna like what I'm getting soon.
If it's a Retic Ghost, I'm gonna hate it.
Okay, so Retic Ghost, your favorite. What's your favorite locality?
Turn 8.
Turn 8. Okay, and if you
I don't know enough about mainland localities, so Turn 8.
Yeah, fair enough.
Definitely.
If you can give any person who does not have a retic advice, into getting retics, what would it be?
Do your homework.
Do your homework.
Do your homework before you buy it. Don't. If that's something that you really want, do it. Because, I mean, anytime I really want
Just
something, I
do
try
it.
and do it. Do what makes you happy, but just do your homework. They're not that hard to keep.
This is coming
if
from the guy who impulse bought at a show.
Well, I didn't.
I mean,
Heck, I mean-
yes, it was right for him, but
I
your
kind of
homework.
impulse bought. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't like I didn't know shit about retics. I knew
yeah, no, for
how
sure,
to
for
keep
sure.
it, but they're pretty easy to keep if you can handle the size. I mean, it depends on what you're getting. If you can handle the size, they're not that hard to keep. Just do your homework.
Cool. All right, and just to wrap up, where can everyone find you online? Where can people reach out to you if they want to?
The only social media I have is Instagram. My Instagram is Harsch Reptiles. It's HARSCH_reptiles. And you can find me on these guys' Discord right here, which I would recommend that if you're interested in retics, join this group, find another group to join. Jump on the Patreon, jump on the Discord. You can
Appreciate
definitely
that.
find the answers and the information that you need.
Yeah,
Um,
and good in depth
groups like that.
conversation. Chad,
yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for listening into this episode. This is kind of the first episode of this segment of new retic keepers that we got to introduce. And Chad, it's been awesome having you on. Guys, don't forget to put your comments down below. Like, subscribe. Go ahead and like and follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Nathan, anything you have before we wrap up?
No, just happy New Year's, guys. Chad, I'm really stoked to have you as our first new keeper on here. So just thank you for putting aside some time for us today. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, thank you guys a lot for having me, man. This is a good time. I always
Yeah.
like sitting down and chatting with you guys. So
Absolutely. You guys have a
appreciate
good
it.
night, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening, and you guys take it easy.
All right, guys. Have a good one.